What's up, everybody? A very happy Monday and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. The chat is already buzzing. Liddy, Eric, David, Walter Rogers, Jason Pogwas, Ray Garcia. Nice to see you. Hit the like button if you could. Before we bring in the All-Stars, and it is an All-Star team on a Monday, that includes you in the chat, of course. Let's see how we did on Friday and last night, of course, on the primetime edition for Sunday Night Football. Looks like this is 7-7. I go 1 for 2. I missed the plus 170 play, but don't forget that cashed at plus 180 the day before on Henrik Norlander. A pretty even day. Obviously, I do want to point out that Mackenzie Brooks did hit her plus 600 parlay. So she had a bad day with the individual picks, but the plus 600 parlay hit on last night's show. And of course, Will Brinson going 3-0. We love to see that. We got Monday Night Football tonight, folks, 7:15 prime time. Speaking of prime time, let's bring in the stars of the show. We've got so much to talk about. Larry, Sniper, Mike McClure. Larry, I'm going to start with you. You know how we start on a Monday. It's your reaction to NFL Sunday. What comes to mind?
It might have been the greatest 4 p.m. block of games we've ever seen, unless you were in Survivor with one of those entries like the Niners or the Seahawks, because we had 4 return touchdowns, blocked field goal, interception, fumble return. It was the craziest afternoon window I've ever seen. Personally, I will never forgive myself for backing Deshaun Watson and ruining, what was a very good day. I will never do that again. I know we always say you can't write off. That's a team I'm ready to write off until they make a QB change, until the offensive line is healthy. But then last night, I think we saw the Dallas Cowboys show some grit. I was on the Steelers. I know a lot of people were on the Steelers. And the Dallas Cowboys were the team that controlled the pace of that game. They controlled time of possession. They had the big turnovers. But I think they actually were maybe the biggest surprise about how gritty they played.
Yeah, it was an interesting back and forth, pretty much a sloppy game. Quick correction, by the way, on the recap screen. I think Will Brinson went 2 for 3 as opposed to 3 for 3. So I wanted to correct that. Larry, I was at that Washington game, and I can tell you, and I listen, I think the book has been written at this point. And Mike, I'll get your reaction to what I'm about to say, and then your reaction to Sunday. Deshaun Watson is not good at football anymore. And I'm not trying to be like that shock jock guy. I don't think he trusts his reads. He's patting the ball. He's just not throwing to windows. He's throwing to wait to see if his receivers are going to get open, and then he throws. And that's just not the recipe in the NFL. And this Washington defense, as beleaguered as they are, looked really good against Deshaun Watson. So that game was never in doubt. At halftime, the game was truly over. The Browns fans were already starting to leave because they had no faith that their quarterback could come back. Mike, your reaction to that and your reaction to Sunday?
Yeah, Cleveland's in just a very, very tough spot. You allocate all that money. You make a lot of it guaranteed this season as well. Just a very, very difficult spot for Cleveland. And no doubt Joe Flacco would be the best quarterback in that quarterback room if he were still there. As far as reaction to the weekend, Cincinnati, I think their season is over. They put up a great effort. They're awesome offensively, just terrible defensively. Baltimore, got to give them credit. They made plays when they needed to, despite making mistakes. But talking about those divisions, I also want to talk about the Bills quickly. They lost that game to the Texans. Josh Allen was clearly concussed there. It was pretty incredible that they had him in the game. I think there will be a massive investigation and review into that one, but it opens the door wide open. The Jets were disappointing in London, but they still got a shot in this division. You see the Bills at the top at 3-2. If you're a Miami Dolphins fan, knowing that Tua is going to come back, whether you agree with it or not, you've got to be pretty excited because at 2-3, now you are not dead in that division at all. So that one's going to be fascinating to see how the AFC East plays out.
Very much so. By the way, Mike, side note on FFT DFS, you recall we had some great conversation, you, me, and Meg on Thursday at 11. I did say I was going to throw in a Kyler lineup while I'm in my seat, Sniper, and I'm going to go to you to some reaction before we get into your official MLB picks. Then we got a lot of Monday Night Football. During a commercial break, like during a timeout during the game, I filled out a couple of afternoon lineups, Mike. And one of them was just a $5 throwaway, $1,700 contest. I threw Kyler Murray at the QB spot. I had Kraft in that lineup. I had Darius Slayton in that lineup. Out of $1,700, it came in first for $2,000. So FFT DFS can be very fun, folks. DFS can be very fun. You can throw $5, $3 in a lineup. It's not always going to cash $2,000. But even if it didn't cash at all, It was kind of a throwaway lineup I put in there, and that's the way it goes sometimes. It can fall either side of the aisle. Sniper, before we get to your official picks, I mean, listen, Caleb Williams had a nice day yesterday.
Yeah, very nice. I heard it doesn't count because it was against the Panthers apparently. But look, there's been growth. I mean, remember the first couple weeks when every time you asked me about it and it was like, well, it was a mixed bag. Yesterday was not a mixed bag. I mean, his first throw of the game was terrible. Could have been a pick six, actually, if Keenan Allen didn't get his hand on that. But after that, he was absolutely phenomenal. Every throw was a dime, 2 deep balls to DJ Moore right on the money. Had a good rapport with Roma Dunze underneath. Komet on a few outlet passes. Very good on the checkdowns, very good on the deep balls initially. Again, I know it was the Panthers, but I'm also allowed to be excited when it's only 5 weeks into a rookie's career. How about the division as a whole, though? I mean, the NFC North has to be the best division in the NFL, right? Sam Darnold with the revenge game against the Jets there. Vikings look really, really good. And, Packers and Bears 3-2 are tied for last place, I guess.
Yeah, it's we thought that was going to be a strong division. We didn't think it was going to be strong because the Vikings were going to be on top.
Yeah,
so
that's
even stronger than we
anticipated. Weren't they
anticipated.
the consensus last place? Well, the Bears might have been, but
No, it was the
Lions
Vikings.
and Packers.
No, it was the Vikings that were consensus last place.
Especially
All
after McCarthy got hurt.
Let's move to first place, or at least first place in the AL East. Let's go to the Yankees. We've got 2 playoff games today. Correct me if I'm wrong. 1 at 4, 1 at around 7. You're going with the 7 o'clock. You got 2 picks in the Yankees game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some in the first game, but I feel a lot more confident in the Royals-Yankees game here. I'm going to start with just playing the Yankees. -150 is not too much juice at all for me. They're just a much better team. The Yankees are now 6-2 against the Royals this season. The Royals, I know that people don't like it when you denigrate a playoff team, but I'm actually just saying a fact in that the Royals had a losing record this season when they didn't play the White Sox. Now, there were times that they looked way better than that, but simple fact is they were 10 games over 500 and they were 12-1 against the worst team in baseball history. So they're just not as good. I definitely think that they could make a run in the series and make it interesting, but I do have the Yankees today. Carlos Rodon down the stretch, 2.20 ERA in September. He's much better at home. I expect him to get probably through 6 innings in this one. And I believe his outs recorded was 15.5 if you want to look at that. Also, I'm going to go to Juan Soto. I know it kind of sounds obvious and maybe even too simplistic to say I liked how he looked in game 1 because it's Juan Soto and he always looked really good in the box, but he did look really good. He was 3 for 5 with a double. Last time he saw Royal starter Cole Reagans was on September 11th and he hit a home run against him. So if you like the feel there, I know it's lefty-lefty, but he still hits lefties well. He slugged over 550 against lefties this year. So I'm on Juan Soto over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. If you want a home run play, just go with Soto. He looked great. He's at home with a short right field porch. And some stuff I'm looking at in the first game, Skubal on the mound for the Tigers. That's obviously very good to keep the Guardians offense down. I lean Guardians in this one. They're the better team. I don't like the Tigers offense here. Matthew Boyd had a pretty good year and the Guardians bullpen is insanely good. And they had 5 days off before Saturday, and then they had a day off Sunday. So they can use their entire bullpen as much as they want. So if anything, maybe an under, even though the total is 6. So I don't know if you want to go under that, but I still think it might be under that. Maybe first 5 under, something like that.
Yeah, we talked about the first 5 under last time Skubal was on the mound, and that ended up hitting. Somebody in the chat brought it up. You ratified it. Let me ask you this, because I think people will look at the Tigers' first 5, Sniper, at unfortunately, that's like as high as -140, -145. That's too much juice, correct?
I wouldn't trust them to have the lead. It's liable to be 0-0 through 5. So if anything, I just want to look at that total.
Mike, we're about to talk a lot of football, a lot of Monday Night Football. Any reaction to that first game? I don't know if you've even really looked at the MLB games with so much NFL coming up, but any reaction to Skubal specifically, maybe a first 5 or maybe the Indians? Excuse me.
I think that when you look at that Cleveland game, I think there's going to be value betting against Skubal the rest of the way. They're playing quality opponents unless for some reason they advance and then they run into Kansas City. Then it's, division opponent. We'll get there if we get there. But in these matchups, whether we're talking Skubal against the Guardians or the Yankees, there's almost definitely going to be market value betting against him because of how phenomenal he's been. And then you consider that offense that he's got behind him. So I do like betting against Skubal in this particular spot. As far as the Yankees-Royals game, I think the Royals definitely have a starting pitching edge. Having said that, though, it is a difficult lineup to face. That New York Yankees lineup is difficult. Cole Reagans can definitely get aggressive trying to pound the strike zone. So for me, it would actually be an overlook in that game. I think we could see offense just like we did in game one. As far as Royals winning the series, I don't think it's going to happen. They let one get away. Anytime you score 5 runs on the Yankees at Yankee Stadium in a playoff game, that has to be a game that you win.
Absolutely. All right. Well, speaking of scoring runs, let's talk touchdowns real quick because we're going to get into 3 Monday Night Football picks in a second. But don't forget, touchdowns. We've got a BetMGM promotion. It's the Pro Football Second Chance promotion. It gives you a chance to get your stake back on any first touchdown bet. Here's how it works. Place a pregame straight first touchdown score bet in any NFL game, like tonight, for example. If your player scores the first touchdown in the game, win your wager as normal. If your player scores the second touchdown in the game, you'll get your stake back in cash. It's that simple. Log into BetMGM for more details. Really is that simple, folks. All right. We simply got to get to a break, and then we're going to come back with a lot of Monday Night Football.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
We're back on the Early Edge presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Mike, I'm looking at your pick and I'm like, does that say first quarter? It usually says first quarter. No, it says first half. What's your Monday Night Football pick?
Yeah, it's a first half team total on Kansas City. It is a rare time when you get a number like this on the Chiefs, especially at home. Over at BetMGM, you can currently play first half team total over 10.5. You can play 12.5s elsewhere. Still like those numbers, but Kansas City is a team, especially at home, where you're routinely seeing this number at a bare minimum of 13.5 and typically 14.5. So I love this because we can get there with a touchdown and 2 field goals. We know that we have Harrison Butker in this spot. We know he's got range from 60, attempted 65 last week. So I do like this particular spot, knowing that it's literally a touchdown and 2 field goals. But it's really the home field advantage in Kansas City's defense. I think that they're going to be awesome defensively. And I want to call out whether or not the Saints are actually any good. They currently rank 29th in pass blocking. That's going to be a problem here because the defenses that they face this year, the Panthers rate 31st in pass rush, the Falcons 28th, the Cowboys 21st. The one good pass rush team they played, they lost to. That was the Philadelphia Eagles, who were playing without offensive linemen, without both receivers for most of that game, and still were not able to find a way to beat that Eagles team. So I like Kansas City, one of the better pass rush teams in the NFL. Now you have the home field advantage. That's where it matters most. We're talking the noise in prime time. You're not going off of verbal cadence when you're operating that offense. We've seen Derek Carr many times throughout his career. He is excellent. He is a top tier quarterback when he has time to throw. When he gets pressured, that completion percentage drops below 45%. I think Spagnuolo is going to dial it up. So I think Kansas City's defense is going to put the offense in a great spot, but ultimately it's just how good Kansas City is offensively scripted. No matter who's on the field, they come out in situations like this and are able to move the football. For me, I love it again because touchdown, 2 field goals get you home. We know how awesome they are at the end of halves. I like this over 10.5 or 12.5 in the first half for Kansas City.
Mike, I don't know your picks until basically the show starts. You couldn't have I almost want to go back and repeat everything you said because it plays so nicely with the pick that I'm about to give out. You talked about the pass rush and how Derek Carr's completion percentage really drops when he gets a pass rush. And we know this Kansas City defense is formidable, both from a pass rush standpoint, but also against the run. And it's why I like Derek Carr's over, but not with anything really substantial. I like his over pass attempts of 31.5 because I don't think he's going to be efficient. Listen, he's going to get the ball out pretty quick because he's going to have to. This pass rush will get to him, especially when you consider the Saints offensive line has a lot of injuries. But just because he's getting the ball out fast doesn't mean he's going to be efficient. You add the fact that they're not going to be able to run the ball very successfully and the fact that he's probably going to be in a negative game script for some parts, if not, half of this game, if not more. I really like how this lines up. I like the number that I'm getting at -102. I'm not really banking on efficiency. And if I'm not banking on efficiency and I'm looking at a negative game script and I'm looking at passing the ball because running's not going to work on the road, I like the pass attempts. That's when I take pass attempts. Give me Derek Carr over 31.5 pass attempts. All right, Larry, I know you have an official play, and I know you also have a lean on the total, which we'll get to, but let's start with your official play.
Yeah, Harrison Butker over 1.5 field goals made. It's pretty juicy, but I mean, this guy is such a great kicker. His only miss this season from 65 yards. And this is a team that doesn't have Rashee Rice, doesn't have Pacheco, doesn't have Hollywood Brown. And the Saints defense, number 1 in red zone defense, only allowing touchdowns on 22% of the trips. I think Patrick Mahomes is so great that with Justin Watson and all the other guys that he's going to use tonight, he'll be able to move the ball up and down the field. But I think they're going to stall a couple times, at least a couple times, and that will lead us to cash Harrison Butker over 1.5 field goals.
All right. And before we get to your lean, Mike, I want to ask you this because, Kansas City is your team. And there's a lot of unknown at the receiver and running back position because obviously all of the injuries and Kareem Hunt coming in with the running backs. Kirk Schroyer asks, does anyone like Kareem Hunt over 8.5? I believe that's 8.5 rushing yards in the first quarter. I don't you can respond to that bet, but do you have an idea? It does seem like Kareem Hunt is going to be running back 1 and that perhaps Samaje Perine running back 2. Any thoughts on that specifically?
Yeah, I think that I would not touch first quarter rushing props with this team. There are certain teams I would, but it's generally going to be unders in first quarters, not overs, just because you can, it's hard to project possessions with the coin toss. But yeah, it wouldn't shock me if Carson Steele gets plenty of looks in this game still. I know he's had troubles with fumbling, but it's a 3-headed monster there. And I personally think that this is a spot where I would avoid any running back rushing props when it comes to quarter markets like that. One more thing I want to say for your prop though, Sia, that I like it. Keep in mind when you're betting this game, Taysom Hill is inactive today. He will not be out there for the Saints. That matters for several different player props because of the way they use him. They would routinely, he would get those 4 or 5 runs anytime they're basically inside the opponent's 40. That takes a good 3 to 4 minutes off the clock every single game that will not be available as well. So that definitely changes player props, not only on their side, but really on the Kansas City side, because it does impact their time of possession.
It also keeps Derek Carr on the field in the red zone to potentially rack up another completion or a pass attempt. Because again, if it's a completion, that's still a pass attempt. So either way, we want Derek Carr passing in this game. And the lack of Taysom Hill certainly helps that. Thank you for that, Mike McClure. Larry, you've got to lean on a total.
Definite lean on the under, especially if you can get 43.5. Talk about no Taysom Hill. You don't have Eric McCoy. You're all pro, amazing center. You don't have his backup, Shane Lemieux. You don't have the right guard, Cesar Ruiz, and the left guard is questionable. And what is Derek Carr, if not susceptible to pressure up the middle? Oh, yeah, and here's Chris Jones coming right there to blow up the pocket. So he's going to have to get rid of it fast. And on the other side, like we talked about, it's not the same Chiefs offense. They know they can win with their defense. And definite lean under the total.
Yeah, I certainly lean to the under as well. By the way, we have AMAGs in the chat. I'm sure you all have been asking away on baseball picks with AMAG. Sniper, anything in the chat that you wanted to address MLB-wise?
No, not really. I mean, I think we pretty much covered it. Should point out, AMAG said he will be at the game tonight. So we've got an early edger in the house.
Let's go.
Dez says, I really think Chris Olave keeps the production up today. Just so everybody knows, I almost had Chris Olave as a play. It wasn't his yards that I was interested in, which I believe is around 58.5. It was his receptions, because I do think in the short area, we're going to see a lot of throws to Chris Olave. Shaheed, obviously more the down the field threat. I think Foster Moreau, Juwan Johnson, I think all of those guys get in the mix. I know somebody else also asked about Kamara's receiving yards, 31.5. Not something I'm going to be on. Mike, any interest in like a running back receiving prop on Kamara?
I don't mind it. I will say I prefer the reception total. I know look, playing running back receiving props, they're enticing because they're low numbers. It's heavily dependent on the game script in the NFL. I know they're popular parlay pieces. I know they're just extremely popular. I would caution against it in a lot of situations. For me personally, I think that it would be just simple volume. We've seen a number of times when Derek Carr is pressured where we see a lot of Kamara passing work, but we're talking negative plays. We're talking negative 2 yards, 1 to 2 yards. So for me, it's going to be a reception number more so than a yardage number.
All right. And Larry, anything else before we get to the recap screen?
No, I just think Kamara is going to have a massive, massive workload. He already has, but without Taysom Hill, that even goes up.
Absolutely. The question really is the efficiency as opposed to the work itself. So I totally agree, Larry. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, we got more Monday Night Football coming your way with the 7:15 primetime show with the Monday Night Crew. But let's take a look at the recap screen. Good morning, Chris Kish. Thanks for saying that. Jeff, Brian Smith, thanks for being in here. This entire show, I've got Derek Carr over 31.5 pass attempts, minus 102. Mike McClure, Chiefs first half team total over 10.5 points, minus 125. The sniper on the Yankees today. Amag's at the game. Yankees money line minus 115, and Juan Soto over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, minus 115. And the Maestro, Harrison Butker over 1.5 field goals at minus 143. Chris Kish says it all. He says, have a good day today. Big Cheesy says, good luck today, fam. Absolutely love to see that. Let's see some check marks on our recap screen tomorrow. Don't forget, we've got the show tonight as well. Let's have a great Monday. Let's start off the week the right way. Let's be nice to everybody. Let's stay positive. And again, some green check marks on behalf of Mike McClure, Larry Hartstein, and of course, the sniper and Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. This is the Early Edge. I'm the Counselor of Cash. We rest our case.